Welcome to this episode of the Partovi Effect. My name is Mrs. Madi Partovi.
And I'm Dr. Ryan Partovi.
And I'm going to toy with the YouTube algorithm. Okay?
Okay.
Just establish some algorithm dominance.
Hmm.
Long COVID. If you're suffering with long COVID, if you know somebody that's suffering with long COVID, we can support you. You don't have to go it alone. If you have long COVID symptoms, if you have symptoms for weeks, months, perhaps years, we can support you. There's definitely the keys to the kingdom through our wellness plan to resolve your symptoms. Parasite cleanse, you don't have to go it alone. Okay, we can support you and you can be guided by an expert medical team. Parasite cleanse, we can support you through our wellness plan. And ivermectin is only part of the key. What else? Cancer. Okay, cancer. Your only option does not have to be the allopathic way. There is another way. And there is also this way in conjunction with the allopathic way.
Which is what I actually recommend, for the record.
Yes, and we can support you.
I do have some comments about those things if you're done. I was waiting for you to be done.
I'm done.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the first thing about the parasite cleanse that just, that I have to say is you might want to first make sure that you actually have parasites, like instead of just assuming that you do, or you probably do, or that you might, and then unnecessarily treating yourself with multiple toxic drugs or toxic botanicals. A lot of times the botanicals can be even, or it can be as toxic, if not more toxic than some of the anti-parasitic drugs, believe it or not. So yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of things that people, I think, are misdiagnosing as parasitosis. And I would not want them undergoing the kind of treatments that are out there unnecessarily as well. And that being said, tying that back into cancer, and I think we've talked about this in a previous episode, and if we have, maybe Molly could link it down below. But I think that one of the big mistakes people make is they assume that because some anti-parasitic drugs have been shown to be helpful in cancer, therefore cancer must somehow be associated with parasitosis. And that's not necessarily true, because the way that medications often work is that there's multiple mechanisms of action and ways that they affect certain molecular systems. And so because of that, you can have one drug and it can do many things. The classic example is aspirin, right? Aspirin historically is always known as a pain reliever. And then they realized, oh, it can also lower fever. And then now we know, oh, it also is an anticoagulant. But we didn't know it was an anticoagulant, I think, until like the 1950s. And so there were lots of people that were giving their hemophiliac patients aspirin and killing them. And you saw that a lot. In fact, a funny little tidbit, one of the reasons why we think that Rasputin was able to weasel his way into the Romanov court was because he forbade the use of aspirin in young Alexei, who had hemophilia, who was the heir to the throne in the time of Tsar Nicholas II, a little Russian history tidbit. For those who don't know, my undergraduate degree is in history. And so we think that it was his forbidding the use of aspirin, which enabled Alexei multiple times to recover from accidents and falls and things like that, even though typically they would have given aspirin because, they didn't know it was an anticoagulant this time. That was what enabled him to sort of get his claws into the Tsarina. There's a whole interesting story about that. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know about that until fairly recently. So I think we're still learning mechanisms of action of different drugs. And we see that with ivermectin, obviously in COVID and other coronavirus, other RNA viruses, and then now also with different cancers. So it's really fascinating. I love it. I love this whole repurposed drugs, using drugs that are already on generic that turns out, oh, they have other things that they can do. Fantastic. Let's use them for those. And they're cheap and they're available, affordable. So why not use them? And a lot of them have much lower side effect profiles than your typical chemotherapeutic agents for sure. So that's really the excitement. I mean, that Madi has around cancer is really for that reason. And what was the first thing you mentioned?
Long COVID.
Long COVID, right. I also wanted to mention vaccinosis, vaccine injury, because that's
yes.
another thing that's really tied with long COVID. What we really call it now is it's all spikeopathy. Really, it's one thing, right? It's spike protein associated disease, spikeopathy. And whether it comes from long COVID or from vaccine injury, we treat it all, we do it all, not a problem. And the protocol is similar, but not identical. And it's something that at this point we have a fair amount of experience. I mean, I would say as much experience as anybody does treating those. And frankly, a decade and a half of experience treating vaccinosis, vaccine injury in general prior to that. So, yeah.
Yes, spikeopathy, parasite cleanses, cancer. This is not a vitamin commercial.
It sounds a little bit like it, though. I like
we
it.
can support.
I'm here for it. I love that episode. It's so funny. I mean, it's just so funny. Anyway.
We can support you. Yes. And this is more of a.
Oh, sorry. For the Zoomers in the audience, if all two of you, that was an I Love Lucy reference, which was the most famous sitcom in your probably grandparents' generation growing up. Yeah. Just needed to put that in there. Just
wow. Okay.
for the handful of Zoomers.
Oh, okay. There are Zoomers that listen. Oh my God.
I have no idea how many. She's the one who knows that stuff.
What was I gonna mention? Oh, okay. So this is not a vitamin commercial.
You said that, yes.
I did.
But that was actually very classic Vita
Vita Vegemin.
Because that's the whole point of the episode, is that she gets so, because it's 25% alcohol, right? So she gets so drunk on it that by the end of the episode, she can't even say it straight. Maddie has not been drinking. She's just high on life. I promise. Continue.
So this is a strong invitation for our community to look and listen for the outcropping of people in your sphere with persistent symptoms and the people that are in your circle that are getting cancer.
Well, or anybody really that has had a new diagnosis since COVID, it's worth screening to see what their anti-spike protein antibody titers look like, because that is an indication of either persistent spike, either from exposure to other people or from their own history of vaccination, or spike-induced autoimmunity, which is also quite common. So,
yes.
And that can also predispose, or we believe that probably FLCCC believes that may be increasing the risk of these turbo cancers that either will recur or will begin, and they'll progress really rapidly to stage 4 because the immune system is sort of overburdened fighting off spike or spike-induced autoimmunity, because again, there's 23 epitopes, which are like specific protein conformations, peptide conformations that are present in the COVID virus that are also present in the human body. So spike-induced or COVID-induced autoimmunity is for sure a real phenomenon. Yeah, so that's why it's important to just get that screening, check it out. And if you sort of haven't felt right, either since you had COVID or since sometimes it's the second, third, or fourth dose, but a lot of times some people will react to the first dose. A lot of people maybe don't react to the third dose or the fourth or the fifth dose. It just depends. Of the vaccine in terms of the boosters, right? So if there's been that kind of a situation where I've never felt right since, or there's been a new diagnosis in the last few years, it's worth screening. And look, there are times where the levels come back totally normal and we have to tell someone, look, this is something that would have happened anyway, right? This is maybe because you were more sedentary or, not exercising or eating right during COVID, but it wasn't because of COVID, right? And then there's times where we say, yeah, no, you need to be treated for long COVID in addition to whatever your treatment is for this new diagnosis you have, because otherwise it's unlikely to get better like it really should. So, yeah.
All right. Can we talk about gratitude and grace?
My favorite topics.
Yes. Well, we just
not actually
celebrated a holiday.
We did just celebrate Thanksgiving.
Where the focus is gratitude and family gatherings. And first thing that I'd like to express gratitude.
And I just, by the way, I want to clarify because I kind of just metaphorically pooped in space. I struggle with accepting people's gratitude, and I struggle with really, I think, having grace in the face of my own shortcomings. So that's really what I was referring to, just so we're clear.
That exists in your own brain.
Right.
Like my,
No, I'm clear. I'm not
yeah, yeah.
saying that. I'm not,
So
but that's why I said what I said, and that's why I wanted to clean it up, but just clarify it.
no, I know, but what I'm saying is that the way that occurs to me is vastly different. Like I experience you being so grateful for life.
Oh, well, I do say often, I love my life. It's true. Yeah, I do. And I do. I love our family and I love you and I love our boys and I love the opportunity that I have to make a difference in the lives of others through our work. And I mean, I love the neighborhood we live in. I love like the city we live in. I love the friends we have. I love my family. I love the opportunity we have to travel and visit them. There's so many things I love about our life. So yeah,
Do you feel that your interior like biochemical frequency just shifted there?
well, I do see that I was in the presence of my own gratitude. Yeah, for sure. I
Yes.
don't know about biochemical frequencies though. That's your department.
Biochemical happenings.
Yeah.
Because there is a way that through meditation, through breath, and through actually being present to what you're grateful for in life, it's like a good dopamine serotonin drip in your brain, which informs your body.
Don't just say neurotransmitter names and say drip and think that's good that I'm going to just let that slide, baby. Come on.
That's why I'm doing this. Come on, give me the actual when you're in meditation or prayer.
Yeah, it's probably actually more oh, I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I want to say it may be more like oxytocin mediated.
Okay.
But I would have to look that up. I'm not, you know, but yeah, I don't think it's that what you're describing definitely does not sound like dopamine to me. Dopamine is stuff like racing cars, playing video games, scrolling on whatever TikTok. I don't I'm not on TikTok, but
Okay, okay.
but yeah, that
There is absolute science to this, and this
mhm,
is for another podcast.
right.
And you were just present to your gratitude.
Yeah,
Okay, that's beautiful.
I'm going with oxytocin.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like a big, like
Hug. It's like a
yes,
warm hug, right?
yes. Like
Yeah.
I'm wearing this. It's from my mom, and it's
Mm,
like a big hug from her.
yeah.
Oxytocin. I'm grateful for.
I'm now I'm thinking about my shirt. I'm like, this was either my mom bought this or it was a gift from my uncle, but either way, it's like a warm hug too.
Okay,
See, I'm not gonna
you're
let
not gonna cut me off again. Okay.
no, I'm like, I don't want you to, I didn't want you to be the only one acknowledging that your clothes were purchased by a beloved family member. Because if I let that slide, I know I would get a message from my sister saying, why didn't you mention the fact that your shirt was purchased by a beloved family member?
I'm grateful for our
Proceed, yes.
community.
Mhm.
So we just hit over 1,000 subscribers over the holiday weekend, and it's very present to who our community is for us. You are people that throughout COVID were either you
I
survived.
feel like we should have paused after that so that Molly could have inserted a little da, 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 like a little, and then like maybe put hats on us and like sparklers. I think it would have been kind of fun, but you just kept going.
So
So that's done now.
you get my gist, right? These are the people that survived being not just survived, but really were steadfast through this time where the world was being gaslit. Okay. And these were people who were judged and maybe cut off from their families. They made a choice whether to get vaccinated or not vaccinated, or they did get vaccinated and then they saw the light that this is not our government and these pharmaceutical companies like don't really have our interest
Those are
at heart.
honestly, I mean, I have a special place in my heart. Those are some of my favorite people. The people who are like, not to interrupt you, but to interrupt you. The people who are like, I'm going to do my part because everybody's saying I need to do this, right? I'm going to go ahead and get the jab. But then I'm going to keep my ear to the ground. I'm going to keep listening. I'm going to remain in the conversation. I'm not going to assume that everything is safe and effective. I'm going to keep an open mind and monitor how do I feel, what's going on, what are the reports coming out, what is the 6-month post-market data showing, and maybe be like, well, I'll hold off a little bit on the booster. We'll see what happens. And then, oh, people are dying suddenly. Maybe I should not get boosted. Okay. And then they contact us and they say, well, in retrospect, 3 months later or 3 years later, maybe this wasn't the best idea. I have been dealing with these symptoms. Can I get unvaccinated? And we can sort of, you can't get unvaccinated literally, but what you can do is sort of get the immunological environment to a place where it's comparable to someone who's unvaccinated.
Yes. Or you can contact us for a medical exemption because there are still corporations requiring this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky thing, right? Because, and frankly, I'm almost hesitant to talk about it on a podcast. I think that on one hand, I've signed a petition of physicians. We're now, I think, over 2,000 doctors. I checked a couple months ago. It's been a while. And I forget the name of it, although you may remember. The Hope Accord. So I'm a signer of the Hope Accord. I was one of the first, I think, 1,000 doctors who signed it. And the Hope Accord is basically calling upon the FDA to revoke the emergency use authorization and also the approval of the COVID-19 vaccines. So on one hand, I'm sort of publicly out there as someone who said these vaccines shouldn't even be available anymore. And yet people come to us and they say, well, I want a medical exemption. And I feel a little bit stuck between a rock and a hard place because my rationale for the medical exemption is these vaccines shouldn't even be available. And then what I'm dealing with is that as the employer is basically saying, well, they're mandated. So we're just coming at it from two such vastly different perspectives that I almost just want to write them like this scathing harangue about how idiotic they are. But that obviously doesn't work, right? So it's a game essentially, and you have to kind of play by the rules of the game. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're just fundamentally anti-mandate, and I think that mandates should be illegal, frankly. I would say, unless this is my caveat, right? Unless the incident fatality rate is over 15% for a disease, and for COVID, just to remind everyone, it was 0.9%. Okay. But if a disease incident fatality rate is over 15%, then I would consider the possibility of a mandate with the possible exception of, let's say you don't do it, then maybe you have to pay a fine, right? Which is what they did for smallpox. Smallpox had an incident fatality rate of between 15 and 30%, depending on which study you're looking at. And the fine was the equivalent of like, I think $100 in today's dollars. It was like $5, but this was 100 some odd years ago. And to me, that's a reasonable compromise to say, look, if you're not willing to do your part, then you're going to have to help subsidize the cost not participating. But I think a flat mandate or you're going to lose your job, I mean, that's absurd. They should never have done that. I mean, I think that at the time when they were doing that, by the time the vaccines were out, we had tests that gave a result in 15 minutes. We had, I mean, there was no reason. There was no reason to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna rewind and stick to gratitude.
well, yeah.
We get mad about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we do. And I thought we were going to talk about like why we eat the way we eat tonight. Are we going to get to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I just
good.
wanted to
just check.
Yes.
You wanting to complete the Thanksgiving?
I do. I do.
Giving of thanks.
Yeah.
Totally got it. Let's do it.
Yeah, and really just express gratitude for our community and who they are for us. Just an extraordinary tribe of people.
Yeah. I got present to something around that in the last 24 hours because I was doing a refill for a woman who's of ivermectin, for a woman who's obviously who I can't say anything about, but other than to say that she's been with us now for a few years and she came to us after losing her husband to COVID. And I got a message today from my office manager that she had requested that we fast track the prescription, which means we do it a little faster and prioritize it. And so we were able to do that, and I was able to get that prescription out today. But the point is, I was just thinking about not just her, but all of the usually widows. We have a group of like widows who've been with us. They're COVID widows. And they've been with us now for many of them have been with us for now like 2+ years, and still with us, still relying on us for refills on ivermectin, for COVID prevention and COVID treatment. And some of them have become wellness plan patients. And I just really admire them. I admire how they have honored the memory of their husbands. I don't know if we have any COVID widowers, but we have at least one. But now that I say that, but yeah, I mean, I think that it's just I love to be able to be there for them. And I love the opportunity to take care of them and provide for their health and kind of in a small way do that for their husbands, if that makes sense. Because I know that their husbands would want them taken care of. So it's something that I sort of take on personally and that matters to me. And I'm grateful for that opportunity because, I mean, on one hand, one of your impulse might be, well, my husband died from COVID. The last thing I want to do is be treated for the rest of my life by a COVID dissident doctor who's like still talking about COVID, 4 years later. But I also think that it's exactly maybe who you'd want to treat you because it's somebody who kind of gets what you went through and the severity of it. So
Yeah.
anyway, I've talked enough, but I just needed to share that because I got kind of moved by it really
Yeah. Thank you.
earlier today. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. So I was so grateful to spend, extra time with our family and with the boys and extra cuddles and kisses and kind of just really connecting to who the boys are, how they're growing. Um, I told you the other day that Jean-Luc, he got up in the morning and he jumped out of bed, but he kind of fell out of bed and rolled out of bed. He was crying. So I picked him up and collected him and kissed, loved on him. And he smiled at me. He said, "Let's try that again." This little 3-year-old, so resilient. That's his essence. We call him Little Baba. He's very much like his Baba, his grandfather, your dad. And yeah, that's his essence. And then our older one, I ask him questions at the end of the day, like, what was the most beautiful thing that happened today? And then he thought about it and he said, I could reach the zip line
Mm.
and it was the wind flowing through my hair. I said, what?
Yes.
Yeah, this child is just so in touch with himself and
Mm.
with nature and freedom, like the feeling of freedom. And he told me another story. At school, his drama teacher put on a 3-minute timer for everybody to be completely silent because they had talked over him for a minute and
Talked over Ryan or the
talked
teacher?
over the teacher.
I got it.
Yeah, all the students were talking over the teacher, so he implemented a 3-minute silence.
Okay.
And then Ryan said he laid down and I relaxed my body. I laid down and I took a few deep breaths. I turned something bad into something good. He said that.
Yeah.
So I'm just very present to the growth and development, like how our boys are becoming their own little humans. And it's so beautiful to watch. And then
I was thinking about that tonight. I came in and Jean-Luc he was lying on the couch and I don't remember what it was. I was coming in and gosh, that's going to bother me. But anyway, I came and tickled him and kind of loved on him. And I had this thought. I was like, this kid reminds me a lot of myself, but he's also his own person. He's also his own unique little individual, even at age 3. It was really a cool thing. And I just it was almost like I could see his whole life ahead of me. And I'm like, there's going to be things that I really relate to and that we really connect on. There's going to be things where I'm like, and but I could see it and I could see the dynamic of like him becoming his own person and how it would be confronting for me on some level. But then there would also be times when it would be endearing and it would be something for me to grow and navigate alongside him. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He notices things too. He walked into this room and he gazed at a painting. He said, "Mama, that painting is nice." just love being a mom, just witnessing the whole unfolding. I'm also grateful for you as a dad. Like it's the little things. I am very clear that I am a super mom, like an extraordinary, like slam dunk mom, because I have such a supportive husband. Like even the small things, even when we went to the movies and saw Moana, and afterwards you took the boys to the bathroom, both of them. And sometimes Nugget is like touching.
Everything, which as a doctor is like, oh, and then he'll wash his hands and then he'll like put his hands on the wall. And I'm like, no, you just defeated the entire purpose.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
you did 95% of the diaper changes when we were out in public. So just those things. And then you took care of the wake up tonight with the boys. Yes. So I am very clear at who I am as a mom. I feel very nourished. I get to feel very present. And when I deal with with anxiety, like you're right there to support me. You're there to cook breakfast for them almost every morning. So I just want you to know.
Thank
Yeah. And I feel that you're really receiving that. So thank you.
you. I am.
There's so much grace that exists. Like I see it everywhere. Grace is the thing that makes something that should seem very small and not enough, more than enough.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that you were able to actually see and acknowledge those things, even in the face of me being with my family. We did Thanksgiving with my side of the family this year. We usually do since COVID started. And basically before COVID, we used to do it with your side of the family. But the last few years, we've always gone to visit them. And one of the things you were noticing, and we were both noticing, is how there's like certain behavior patterns because they know how to push my buttons and I know how to push their buttons. And so we get in like these sort of verbal tug of wars, and sometimes they get very heated and very emotional. And we all know that it's coming from a place of love, but like there's part of me that sort of reverts, I guess, in a way to sort of the way that I was in many ways before we met and before we really were married and all of that. And you pointed that out. And I'm present to that the grace that you showed in giving me the space to really navigate that and work it out and figure it out on my own without really throwing a big fit or throwing a fit at all, really. Just kind of noticing it, commenting on it, and being like, all right, like this is where he is, this is what he's doing, this is what he's got to deal with. And that, and you really took care of the kids. Like I would say, you just said 95% of the time diaper changes were in public. I'm like, you took care of the kids 95% of the time the week we were there. Like there was very little time. I mean, maybe there were other people, and I'm not saying that I was the other 5%, right? Like the other 5% may have been cousins, aunts, uncles, that kind of thing. But I really felt like it's something that I do really appreciate. And it's something that you were able to do and not really have it be wrong, but just have it be like, I guess this is what he's got to do to when he goes to visit his family. And it's
Yeah, I
not like
mean,
I have to, by the way. It's more like there's a process.
it's a completing and a healing process,
It
really.
is. And this is something that it's so fascinating because I'm going to get a little bit controversial and use a name and we'll talk about it. And you may disagree with me
I'm
completely on this.
gonna set the stage for this. So I don't know if it was the Dalai Lama or Ram Dass that said, if you think you're enlightened, go visit your family.
Yeah. Great. Beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for setting the stage in that way, because
Yeah.
that's perfect. So Alex Hormozy recently said that he doesn't go to family holidays anymore because he doesn't like the person that he is when he's with them, because that's kind of like an older version of self, right? And my philosophy is the opposite. I'm like, you're not actually a transformed human being if you can't be transformed around your family. You are not crafting, you are curating your environment, crafting and curating maybe your environment so that it enables you to arise in a particular way but you're managing it to the point where it's like, okay, it's easy. Like, oh, it's easy to be transformed when I get to control my entire environment and I don't get to, I don't have to deal with stuff that's people's SHIT from 10, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago in some cases. Sure, anybody can be transformed, come from nothing in that kind of a pristine environment. But the point is to take the personal and professional growth, training, and development, to take the tools that we've learned, whether it be through personal growth work, therapy, landmark, reading self-help books, whatever it is, and to take that into the trenches, which is Thanksgiving, Christmas, with the family, being there, big group of people, dealing with different opinions, different ideas, different voting records, etc., right? And different religious views, all of it, right? And being with that, being your best self in the face of that, and really gradually over time, I think evolving and elevating who that self is, not expecting like, well, the way that I am when I'm in this perfectly curated environment is going to be, I have to be that way immediately with my family. Otherwise, I don't want to spend time with them because I don't like who I am. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of times when I don't like who I am with my family, but that doesn't mean I don't hang out with them. It doesn't mean I skip Thanksgiving, right? It means I say, well, time to put my big boy pants on and go in there and dive in and see what there is for me to discover and transform moment by moment by moment, because all we have is now and now and now. And every moment is a new opportunity to actually take that on and to really be present and be with the family and to discover something new. And one of the things we discovered, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is like how great our family is. Like how they have an amazing ability that constantly surprises us to actually be with some of our contribution, which often looks frankly pretty confronting. And that if it had come from anyone else, maybe they wouldn't have taken it as good as they did, but they took it from us and they were really great about it. And then we danced and it was heated, but it was like,
Yes, I'm gonna be on the court with this. So
great.
we had a whole house of different political views and different views about what happened with COVID and vaccinated and unvaccinated. And the entire family
In
was,
other words, we have a real family.
yes, and the entire family was really present to unity and connectedness. And in the face of all that, just really being with each other. And it was really lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, your family's great. I lost my thought.
You were being on the court.
Yes, I lost my thought.
No idea. Okay. All right. Well,
Oh my gosh.
okay.
From I'm addressing Alex Hormozy.
Okay.
From one Persian to another. Like there you have.
I'm half Persian, just so we're clear.
Well,
I don't even know if that's a thing actually, because I don't even speak Farsi, but my dad's Persian.
yes.
That's
Okay.
fair.
Thank you for
I just have to be
the
precise.
precise
I gotta be precise.
nature of that explanation.
Yes.
But yes, there is now to I use the word complete, but forgive and to say the unsaid, say what's there for you in a way that is compassionate, and you can actually take responsibility like for how life occurs to you.
Yeah, you can even be like, hey, you know what? I really hate who I'm being right now. Like, I hate this. Like, I don't know why. It's like I get so reactive or triggered whenever, you say this thing, and this is not who I normally am anymore. And I hate that I'm being this way right now. But like, here we are, and this is what's going on. And here are my concerns, and here's what I'm dealing with, and
Yeah,
here's
and
what
if
I
you're
don't like about what you're saying, and here's what I do kind of like about what you're saying, but maybe in a different context. Like,
yeah, and if you have the courage to go there, you can always ask the golden question, the silver bullet question, I'd say, like, what has it been like? What has it been like to be in a relationship with me?
mm,
And then just listen to what they have to say. Okay, that was great.
yeah.
And this episode
And just so we're clear, this is not about ragging on Alex Hormozy. I just want to make
No,
sure
oh
that's
my
clear.
gosh.
This is actually about standing for something, like standing for him, actually having a relationship with his family and being able to attend family events. And not just him, but all y'all, right? Like the whole planet,
Yes.
like families that work, because that's who we are, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that was good. Like we were using him as an example because it's kind of a famous example because I've heard him like talk about this on
He
multiple
does. He
podcasts.
does.
He
Yeah.
talks about it all the time. And so I'm like, great, let's take that on because it's like a very public example of what we're describing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to segue into the continuation of this series, the Partovi world of food and why we eat what we eat.
Okay, great. You're like, okay, take it away. So last time we talked about kind of our journey to this way of eating, right? And the history of it, the natural history of it. And I don't really recall off the top of my head what it is that we said we were going to do next. Maybe you could refresh my memory, or if
Well,
you can't
okay.
refresh
So
my
I,
memory, go
I
ahead.
I was sharing with our community that this will lead into a powerful offering, an extraordinary online course that is available to the masses. And it's for people who have had a lifetime. Okay, I'm gonna name everything that's, or let you, our community, identify yourselves through who this is for. Okay. And starting from the top, like this is for people who have food addictions, like that are dealing with sugar, food addictions, who have a relationship with food that is up and down, one that is perhaps riddled with guilt or shame, people who have a busy lifestyle and are interested in really up-leveling their understanding of what is optimal for you because it's different for everybody. This is why this course is called Your DNA, Your Diet. So if you're of the mind that, okay, you're really interested in, you've tried keto, you've tried paleo, you've tried everything, and it's not working for you. Like you still have those energy crashes, you're still experiencing, you don't have a key. There's something missing, the presence of which would make a real difference in feeling this peace and this ease and this equanimity when it comes to making food choices, especially throughout the holidays when you're jammed with candy and pies and carbs and sugar and alcohol. Okay, who else is it for, beloved?
Yeah, that's so interesting because I had an idea, which I'm going to come back to in a second, but I really was so intrigued because we made this massive menu of like probably a dozen different
Oh
things
gosh.
for Thanksgiving dinner, which we do dinner, not lunch, because we need the whole day to cook, right? And then my aunt arrives at the meal and she had made we asked for everybody to bring a couple things so that we could round out the menu. And she had made a keto stuffing and or one type of keto stuffing. I made a different type of keto stuffing, totally different, but both yummy, and also a keto pumpkin pie, which was very good. So she comes in and she's like, what can I eat? Like, I know I can have turkey, but like, what else is keto? And I was like, everything is keto here except for like these two things, the purple sweet potatoes and the rice, which obviously is not going to be keto. But literally, I mean, almost like accidentally, we pretty much just had this menu. And I mean, we had some pies, I think, that were not keto, and one of them was gluten free, but not keto, right? So, but we had, but she had brought her own pie. So, I mean, literally, we had this meal that literally, I think, unless you were a vegan, if you were a vegan, you might have been in a tight spot. But I think if you were even just a vegetarian, there would have been plenty of food for you to eat. Um, Pretty much any kind of nutritional, and it was again, a vast majority of it was keto. It was about 95% paleo. We may have had some rice here and there in like maybe two dishes. But yeah, I mean, it was just, and it was all organic, really healthy, good stuff, just really delicious. And at no point do I feel in any way like, oh, I'm living without, or I'm doing without, or I feel deprived. Even had these really yummy keto rolls that, or no, paleo rolls that we like. that they're cheesy bread kind of things, but they're yummy.
I noticed that throughout the years, we had really enrolled the whole family having a meal like this
Yeah,
that was decadent and delicious and nutritious and keto.
so good. Yeah,
So good. Yes.
yeah,
So you can be truly empowered in the food choices throughout these major holidays and really be empowered.
yeah. There's really no reason why, other than people's limiting beliefs, I would say, which of course are big, but there's really no fundamental impediment to having a Thanksgiving that's as delicious and rewarding as Thanksgivings you grew up having, cooking the way that we cook. I would just say, to
Yeah.
me, it's just, I actually prefer the purple sweet potatoes more than the regular sweet potatoes. I mean, you could certainly use regular sweet potatoes, that's fine, but the purple ones have the extra anthocyanidins, which have an antioxidant and sort of specifically endothelial antioxidants. So the inner lining of the blood vessel helps protect them. That's really good. So, and they're, as you love to say, it's a blue zone food, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to talk about that. The
Yeah.
man who forgot to die. That's for another episode. So thank you for your generous listening. Thank you for showing up to the podcasts. Thank you for subscribing and following and leaving the ratings and reviews. Thank you for all of that. And this has been a phenomenal episode.
It has.
Of the Partovi Effect.
I'm Dr. Ryan Partovi.
And I am Mrs. Madi Partovi.
Thank you for joining us. Be well.